All right, welcome everyone to our Monday leaders training. Today we're going to talk about scheduling for the first like 10, 15 minutes, and then you guys can ask questions. So speaking of schedule, all of you guys are leaders or above on this call. So it is always important to know when you're going to work, but also when you're not going to work. Okay, does everybody know when they're not working? Okay. I know it's really weird to say that, but it is such a good mental thing that you can train yourself to because, hey, sometimes we just want to play on Facebook and we don't want to work on Facebook, and that's okay. We just got to make sure we put time aside for it. So, anyways, if you don't have a schedule yet, if you still, for some reason, don't have that figured out or you're struggling with it, I can't vouch enough that until you figure that out, it's always going to feel like something's got to give. Sometimes the business gives, sometimes the family gives, and you're never going to feel balanced. I still believe that a complete balance is a myth on a daily basis, but I think overall, if you can look at, Sunday night, you can look at your past week and you feel like you've been pretty balanced overall with work and family and other activities, then you should be feeling good. So anyways, if it's starting to feel like you are all over the place, you always feel like you're one step behind and you're stressing out and it's overwhelming you and it's not fun anymore, then the schedule is definitely going to be your number one thing. So I was talking to Sarah Sharp last week, and we've been talking about scheduling, I think, for a while, but I don't think whatever I was saying wasn't clicking until last week. So I brought Sarah on to kind of maybe share her testimony and then give you guys some extra tips about really, treating your business like a business, setting time to work your business, and then also setting time to not work your business. So Sarah, you want to share what we did last week?
Sure. Hey guys, I'm Sarah. I've been working with Claudia for a while we've been talking about scheduling, like she said. And I was like, yeah, I know I need to, but I don't think I really ever took it like seriously. Like I was just like, oh, I have a schedule, but I kind of just was like flying at the seat of my pants. And I finally got to the point where I was feeling really overwhelmed. And then it was like, it was like fight or flight. So instead of fighting, I was just like, run the other way. And I didn't want to be that way. I wanted to like here and keep going forward and doing what I've been doing. So I talked to Claudia and I was like, you know what, I'm like, it's losing the fun for me and I just don't know where to start. And she was like, a schedule, duh, like we've been talking about it. And so finally I was like, oh my God, you're an idiot, Sarah. Why didn't it click before? And it finally did. And I came home that night after I talked with Claudia and I sat down. I really thought about what would work best for me and my family. My husband works overnights and like crazy hours, so he's rarely home. And I'm a stay-at-home mom of a 2-year-old little guy that constantly wants my attention. So I was always feeling like I couldn't do both. Like I was either paying attention to Pamper Chef or I was paying attention to him. And I hated feeling that torn. I mean, you're never going to have a perfect balance, but you can always try to feel less stressed. So I came home and I sat down and I set a schedule, and it has been crazy the amount of change I've had. It's fun again. I love to be able to like come to work. I work nights now that like my husband's working nights, so I will put my son to bed. I'll spend a few hours doing things that I need to do. And I've really set myself to that couple of hours, whereas before I'd be 3, 4, 5, 6 hours and I'd be up until like the wee hours of the morning and just feeling like, oh my God, I need to get it all done. So instead of doing that, I know I only have 2 hours. So I make lists now. I make lists of things that are most important to get done. And I felt so much more accomplished. I just feel way more accomplished now that I have a set schedule. You don't have to have crazy hours. I mean, most of us are directors, advanced directors. I mean, we're not running like huge teams like Claudia yet. So you don't have to have anything crazy, just what is going to work best for you. If it's early mornings, if it's getting up an hour earlier than the rest of your family and taking an extra hour to check into your parties and send all of your host coaching and really do a few things that you want to do, send 10 contact messages for the morning, then that's what you need to do. But I'm telling you that scheduling makes a huge difference. I feel like 100 pounds has been lifted off of my chest and working's become fun again. And that's what it's all about, is having fun. I mean, nobody joined this to be like a dreadful job, like, oh, I don't want to go to it. We joined it to have fun and be able to be home and work from wherever we want to work from. We just need to know when we're going to work. And setting that boundary with my team has also helped a lot, because they now know, like, hey, I can message Sarah in the morning, but I'm not going to get a message until, she checks in mid-afternoon or that evening. And they know now. So it's actually helped them grow a little bit, because now they know that I'm not their only resource. They can find out answers other places. Whereas before I was like constantly like responding right away and feeling anxious if I couldn't. So set a schedule and share it with everyone. I mean, I even sent it to my husband. I'm like, this is what I'm working. So like when you're home, this is when it is. So don't think that I'm free the whole day. And it's made a huge difference. So everyone should make a schedule.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
There is the Belief number 2 call. Oh, Lori's sharing hers. Yay, that's how mine still looks like, color-coded like that. There is still, the Belief group is still open. The Belief call number 2 that Claire Dolger did was all about scheduling in 15-minute increments. It was an amazing call. So definitely recommend you listen to it. But sometimes what happens is we try to create this perfect schedule for the rest of the entire year, right? So maybe if you are still struggling, just look at February, okay? Print out a month at a glance. I don't care if you have a paper or Google Calendar, just print out a month at a glance calendar and just put all your activities in it first. Like, your schedule or whatever, your work, your after work activities, and just put them all in there and then look at, okay, so if I put all these things in there, where do I have time to work on my business depending on my goals? And they're all different, right? So if your goal is to sell $5,000 a month, which should be every director's goals, right? Or more, whatever, you should know, okay, this takes 12 virtual parties. This takes 8 cooking shows. So you need to backtrack from your goals and then plug them in when you can, right? Because if you only put aside 5 hours a week and your goal is to do 8 cooking shows, there's no balance, right? If your goal is to do, 16 virtual parties a month and you put away 10 to 15 hours a week, then you're probably good, right? And if you find that you're still running behind and you're still running out of time, then you can adjust it. So just take it like 1 month at a time. Print out the rest of February and just write things out of the things that you do from the moment you book a party, from the moment you close it, from calls to trainings to work to activities, and just do it. And then what Sarah shared that's important too is share it with your family, okay? If you have one, share it with your family, because you are making a pretty good paycheck as a director or above, right? So we have to treat it like a business and we have to show up for work. Yes, we want it to be all fun and roses all the time, but sometimes we just need to sit down and maybe do the things we don't want to do and make host packets and set up groups and all those things that, you just need to do. So who has a schedule or who's had a schedule for a while that feels really comfortable with it and feels like it helped them? Anybody want to share? Oh, Lori, you want to go first, and then Nikki, you can go.
I know for me, it was huge because I got to the point where I felt like I was working all the time. And when you feel like you're working all the time, it is not fun. It's a drag. And then when you feel like you're working all the time, then sometimes you just duck out. And when you duck out and then you come back in, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed. So I just redid my schedule because I have some gym in there, gym time. I joined the gym because I got to get a Hawaii body, somewhat of one. So I had to redo my schedule and make up those times, at nighttime. Normally I quit, at around 3 o'clock or whatever. So I just extended them. I don't, like if I'm done, I can leave before then, but this is just the time that I have allotted. It freed my brain so much. Another thing in addition to that is don't feel like you have to answer everybody's calls right then and there. If you have office times, and guess what? You can kind of address the ones that seem more important. And then when you get in the morning or whenever your office hours are, that's when you can, there's no Pampered Chef emergency. There's no host There's no consultant on your team. And that really helped me, that I didn't have to do anything outside of those hours, unless, I needed to. But it's made it so much easier to work.
So Lori, we talked about the whole monthly at a glance. Can you share your weekly and how you, I know I've talked about it 100 times, but we have lots of new people.
So the weekly one is basically you go in and you fill in all of your obligations. So Tuesday nights, me and my husband teach Love and Respect marriage group at our church. On Wednesday nights, I have church. I didn't even put the weekends on here. I have some flex time on the weekends. So I put that in. I put my gym time in. I belong to a business networking group here. And then, I just kind of picked my family time. So I did all of that. What's up here? Oh, Bible study in the morning. I know I had something else. So I put all of that in, and then based on where those are is where I found my pockets of time that I could work. The last thing I put in was work. I didn't pick work first and then put all the stuff around it. I picked all of the other times when I did have obligations and, put that in there, and then kind of decided the family time. Now I have flexible time where, at nighttime mostly it's for family, but I can do calls then, if I want to. I can have, certain nights that I do that. But yeah, like that's how you find the pockets of time you can work.
Yeah, and it goes both ways, right? If you're working full time, this is even probably more important than anything, because you are already so busy. So you need to know exactly, I have 30 minutes. What am I doing during those 30 minutes? And then moving on. But for those of us that don't work full time, it's like Lori said, we could work all day long, right? Which is also not good. Nikki, you raised your hand too.
Yeah, so I've had a schedule for a long time, but something that was really killing me was like I was getting the messages from my team constantly, or messages from a host, or stuff like that. And Donna, not too long ago, showed us how to turn off those messages. So my messages don't even pop up anymore, and that has allowed me to really not look at those messages until I am sitting down for my office time. And the other thing that I did was I set specific times for specific things. So for me, I'm going to send 10 messages in the morning before my kids wake up. I send 10 messages at my son's nap time, and I send 10 messages after my kids go to bed. And that really allowed me to be accountable to when I'm sending my messages, my outreaches to get new bookings or new recruits or whatever. But that really changed things for me, because I kept putting off sending my messages. I kept, I don't have time to do it. I have other things to do it. But now that I have a specific time of day that I'm doing that, I'm consistent with it. Melinda asked how you turn off those messages. Donna might be able to show you better. I don't know. I did it the very day she showed me. And
yeah, it's just on your browser, on your computer, like on the bottom right where the chat boxes are, there's a little settings button, and you can click turn off messages or turn off notifications. Turn off chat. I also recommend turning off your Facebook notifications on your phone because that can ding all day long. But I like these girls just shared, even for me, I had to do it about 3 years ago when I felt like I was working 24/7. And even at my level, you guys might think I work all day, but I really don't. I just, I go to the gym every day. I just get up very early because that's what works for me, because I don't like to stay up late. And on the weekends, I hang out with my family and binge watch Netflix. So, we all have a life, but we have to make it a priority. And sometimes there's weeks where maybe work is more of a priority because of goals or whatever. And then there's weeks where you can take a week off and do whatever you want, right? So, like I said, as long as you feel like overall, you can look back at the week or the month and say like, okay, I felt pretty balanced, right? That's really important. Anybody else want to share? Or questions for any of these guys?
I did want to say just one last thing is when you're doing outreaches like Nikki has them scheduled in there, I would recommend that you don't answer anybody right then. Do all of your outreaches And then don't let it, or else if you start answering people, then you won't get to the outreaches. I do all of my outreaches, and then because I'm not even in the mood to answer them at that point. I'm just like, I got to do this. And then you can come back to it later. Even if they respond right away, you don't have to. You can come back to that in 10, 15 minutes, a couple hours, whatever it is, and then you can respond to messages.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Anybody else? Questions, comments, add-on? Who has a schedule and follows it? Okay, good. Jason, do you might want to share, because I know you're not on all these calls, but you work full-time and you've been a director for a while and you're pretty consistent. What works for you?
So my partner works retail, so he's busy most of the weekend, and I am not, because I work full-time during the week. So right away when I started my business, Saturday was my day. Like, that's my day to get all my outlines set up, all my templates loaded into CinchShare, all my parties, and like I make contacts the entire time I'm doing that so that I can book shows during that time. And so I do my darndest to get all of my like sit down at my computer work done in 3 hours on Saturday. And then I definitely am a Facebook notifications addict, so I'm getting nervous hearing you telling me to turn off my notifications, but
well, you don't have to if it doesn't bug you.
Right. And then, so yeah, I think that's something that I could definitely work on, is not responding to my hosts and my team immediately, just because like I'll forget about it, honestly, if I don't do it right then. And that's part of my strategy, is I just want to do it and get rid of it. But definitely nighttime during the week is kind of off work time. So nobody wants to work 9 hours and then come home and do more work.
Yeah, there you go. So you found that, a weekend works. And I think definitely adding on either an evening of a couple hours or one weekend day of a couple hours for those that work full time is definitely good. Anybody else that maybe works full time that wants to chime in?
I'll also say that Saturdays are my cooking show days. So if I book cooking shows, they're always on Saturdays too.
All right, awesome. Yeah, so if you're doing cooking shows, if you know you want 2 a week, you should pick the day that you want to work, okay? Don't let your host pick them. They will work with you. All right, anybody else? Questions, feedback? Okay, if you're still struggling and you're still not feeling balanced and you're still feeling like things are all over the place, send me a schedule, okay? If you need someone to hold you accountable, it takes time. It's not going to happen overnight, but it takes a good 30 days to create a habit. And if you know at the end of the day it's going to make you feel better, why not do it, right? Okay, I guess that's it for today then. We'll see you guys next week. Have a good one.